Hello everyone and welcome back to Odyssey Recaps, just the Tea edition. Just a reminder that if you'd like a more detailed and in-depth recap, please head on over to my Below the Surface recaps, but if you want something shorter, shallower, and sassier, you're in the right place. Today we're recapping chapter or book 8, titled by Emily Wilson as The Songs of a Poet. We last left off with our boy Odysseus washing up on the island of the Phaeacians, where he quickly made his way to the palace, and then he made supplications to the king and queen, mainly the queen, she is in charge, who have said that they will help him get home after a few more barbecues to the gods. So, chapter 8 opens with the sun rising on another day in paradise, and King Alcinous is ready to party. Odysseus really just wants to get home ASAP, but he's not about to turn down another free barbecue, especially as he was just starving. And with his luck on the sea, it's probably smart to fuel up while he can. Athena is also busy running around town in yet another disguise, telling everyone to get to the council meeting by the sea so they can get a look at the super hot new bachelor who is washed up on their tiny little island. Then she uses some more of her special goddess powers to yassify Odysseus again and make him look fine as heck. When everyone's assembled at the council meeting, King Alcinous is like, chat, here's the stranger. I didn't get his name. It's not important. He wants to go home, and because we're not kidnapping psychos, I'm going to ask for 52 of the best salty sea dogs out there to outfit our newest magic ship and get this man home. But first, of course, we must do a barbecue for the gods. So get the ship ready, then come back to the palace for some brisket and vibes. By the way, I booked the blind bard Demodocus to DJ for us, so you know it's going to be lit AF. Let's get to it, gang. Everyone is super psyched and gets the ship all ready to go in record time. Then they head up to the palace for the barbecue, which is insane. Guys, they have so much food. It's crazy. Anyway, everyone is eating and vibing, and when everyone's done eating, the bard gets his lyre out and starts singing. But unfortunately, everyone's current favorite bop is to hear about the Trojan War, and the bard chooses to sing about a fight between our boy Odysseus and Achilles, though of course no one knows that it's Odysseus, right there. So poor Odysseus is doing his best to stay anonymous, but the PTSD hits big time. This is just genuinely the worst thing. Imagine sitting there and having to listen to the worst times of your life while trying super hard to maintain a party vibe. Literal nightmare fuel. No thank you. No thanks. Anyway, our boy is doing his best to cry quietly, but the king who is sitting right next to him notices, and like a good friend, he's like, "Hey guys, cut the music. It's time to get serious. We need to go and do some sports competition so this guy can go home and tell everyone how strong and sexy we are. Everyone get on the field and get oiled up." Absolute bro move. So, all the Phaeacians get all oiled up and go to the field and start doing a fun sports carnival. There's sprinting, there's wrestling, there's jumping, there's discus hurling, and boxing. It's all going well, and Odysseus is vibing along, but then the crown prince is like, I wonder if the mysterious stranger wants to compete. He's super sad, but weirdly muscular. They ask Odysseus if he wants to compete, and he's like, nah fam, I'm too sad. I just really want to go home. That's all I want to do. Just go home. That is it. Instead of picking up on this very obvious hint, one of the winners decides to taunt him, saying he's a loser and a mercenary, maybe a pirate. He probably can't do any sport anyway. Now, you know our boy Odysseus is not going to take that lying down. So he channels Kenya Moore from the Real Housewives of Atlanta and proceeds to read this man for filth. He looks this man directly into the windows of his soul and says that the gods do not bless everyone the same with equal gifts of body, mind, or speech, and says that some men may be weak, but everyone looks to them for their intelligence and eloquence. And then there are other men who look fit and strong, but have no grace in their words. Then he goes in for the kill. Guys, he looks at this man and he says, like you look impressive and a god could not improve your body, but your mind is crippled. Excuse me, damn. And he did this in front of everyone, including the king, who is basically the Andy Cohen of Phaeacia. Bro. But our boy is absolutely not done. He says he's angry now, and even though pain has crushed me and I have endured the agonies of war and struggled through the dangers of the sea, he is gonna compete. And boy, does he. He leaps up, grabs the heaviest discus he can find, and just hurls it down the field. It flies further than anyone else had ever thrown one. And Athena, in another disguise, runs up to mark it and is like, oh, he crushed it. No one will ever be able to beat this record. OMG, this man is amazing and really hot. Did anyone notice that? Odysseus turns back to the crowd and is like, anyone else want to go? I'll beat you too. I'll beat you all. Except for my host, because that would be rude, and I'm not a rude boy. Just better than all of you in every way. He does some more tactical bragging, gives them a little hint about his identity by saying that he was the second best mortal archer at Troy and that he'll beat anyone at any sport except sprinting because he had to skip leg day while stuck at sea. The crowd is like, damn. And the king is like, okay, well, you've definitely proved your point, but please be sure to tell everyone that we are great at sprinting and sailing. And I'm going to quote directly here because hard to agree. The king says, we love the feast, the lyre, dancing and varied clothes, hot baths, and bed. And at this point, I probably would have stayed because this sounds like my kind of people. They're basically fast, sea-based hobbits, and who wouldn't want that lifestyle? Well, clearly Odysseus, but he wants to go home to his hot wife. The king wants to make really sure Odysseus knows how good they are at partying, so the bard gets his lyre out and they make a dance floor in the middle of the field and bring out all their best dancers, and Odysseus gets a front row seat to the So You Think You Can Dance and / or Lyre Phaeacian edition. The bard sings a popular myth, and guys, it is crazy. So grab your popcorn and snacks because, good lord. It's also really gross and creepy though, so be ready for that. Trigger warning, even goddesses would choose the bear. Anyway, to the story. So, Ares, the god of war, and Aphrodite, the goddess of love, are having an affair. Helios, the sun god, sees them banging it out one day and goes and tells Aphrodite's husband, the god of metalwork, Hephaestus. Hephaestus is pissed, and like any good ancient Greek literary character, he wants revenge. So he heads to his craft room and makes these magical chains that are thinner than spider's web, but so strong that they can never be broken, not even by a god, or a god and a goddess. He goes and sets them up all around Aphrodite's bed, twining them everywhere around the bed and the ceiling and just covering the bed in invisible magical chains. Then heads off to the town of Lemnos for a beer and presumably some feta cheese and halloumi. Ares had been watching the house, and when he sees Hephaestus leave, he's like, it's go time, and heads in to bang Aphrodite. They head down to Pound Town, but the second they get to the bed, the magical chains wrap around them like some kind of like practical joke shibari, and they are trussed up good and proper. Hephaestus comes back and finds them, and he's like, nah man, and calls all the other gods to come down and see the two adulterers all trussed up and like hanging naked over the bed. Now, just want to take a quick sidetrack here to give you some like backstory. Zeus is Ares' father, and according to Homer, also Aphrodite's father. Though some other sources say her dad is Uranus, but according to this poem, he is both their dads. But wait! Many sources, including this book, also say that he is Hephaestus' father too. So Hephaestus has called his dad and the rest of their family to come see his sister wife sleeping with his / her brother. And yes, it's important to note that in Greek mythology, incest doesn't really work the same way for the gods and immortals as it does for the rest of us, but this tea is some nuclear fusion level piping hot tea, and I refuse to cool it down with contextual information. Anyway, the gods all gather to laugh at Ares and Aphrodite. Hephaestus is like, Dad, look, she's doing an adultery on me. Also, she's ableist and mocks me for being disabled, and she's only with him because he is able-bodied, which is really sad and genuinely messed up, but in my opinion, does not justify what comes next. So Hephaestus asks Zeus to pay him back the price he paid for Aphrodite and casually insults her a bit. Then a few of the gods come and gather to look at Hephaestus and Aphrodite all naked and trussed up over the bed. Then the poem says that the goddesses all stayed away from home for modesty or whatever, maybe because this is just gross, but like either way, they weren't there. Anyway, the men gather in the bedroom and laugh at the adulterers and basically say that Hephaestus ended up being smarter than Ares and that they deserve it. Then Apollo asks his brother Hermes, both also sons of Zeus, and according to this poem, also brothers of Aphrodite, if he would like to have sex with his sister, even if it meant being tied up in chains. And Hermes says, yeah, definitely, he would let everyone, all of his family, watch if it meant he got to sleep with her. I mean, ew, gross. So anyway, all the gathered male gods, because again, Aphrodite is the only woman there, are laughing at them and talking about how much they all want to have sex with her, all except Poseidon, who begs and pleads with Hephaestus to let Ares go. Like, cool, yeah, he's the victim here. Poseidon says he'll make sure Ares pays the penalty in full. Hephaestus doesn't want to let him go, but Poseidon's like, I will post bail. If he tries to dodge the debt, I will pay it myself. Hephaestus isn't happy, but is like, fine, I'll do it for you, and lets them both out of the chains. And both of the adulterers run off to different Greek islands for some R&R. And the poet also notes that Aphrodite smiled as she went to Cyprus, which, like, sure she did. Then she gets there, the Greek graces all, like, wash her and oil her up so she's all sparkly and just, like, extra hot. So she came out of this okay. So that's the fun story the bard tells everyone. After the bard is done singing, the king orders more dancing, and everyone goes back to proving that the Phaeacians are really the best dancers in the quadrant. And Odysseus is like, yep, you guys are definitely the best. Can I please go home now? And the king is like, not without some presents, you can't. And tells all the lords to give Odysseus gold and some freshly laundered clothes. And also tells the guy that insulted Odysseus earlier that he should give Odysseus a gift as well, and he better make it good. The guy's like, sure, have this super fancy sword, and I'm super duper sorry, and I hope you get home to your hot wife. And Odysseus is like, all right, fair trade, and takes the sword. They all head back to the palace, and the king orders the queen to draw Odysseus a hot bath and get him some nice clean clothes. And when he's all done bathing, he needs to come out and see all the gifts everyone brought him. And then they'll have a banquet, some more singing, and then the king has a special cup he wants to give him so that Odysseus will think of him every single time he drinks from it. Guys, Athena might have made Odysseus look too sexy. Like, this is a lot. Anyway, the queen gets her slaves to make Odysseus a hot bath, and then she gets a giant chest and puts all of her gifts in it and ties it up. She tells Odysseus to be careful and keep it tied up so that no one can rob him if he falls asleep on the ship. And I'm like, you mean your ship? The one you're lending him, staffed entirely by your people? But anyway, the book says that Odysseus, experienced in loss, took careful note and retied the box with a knot that Circe, a really hot witch that we're going to meet very soon, taught him. And he goes off to have his bath. The slave girls wash him and oil him up before sending him down to party number 2 of the day. Guys, I once tried to do 3 parties in a row when I was at uni, and I was hungover for a solid week. This might be worse for Odysseus than all the shipwrecks. Our boy needs to hydrate. On his way to the party, he finds Nausicaa, the princess, casually leaning against a pillar, admiring his hotness, and she's like, think of me when you get home. Remember I saved you. And he's like, yep, I will. Thank you again. And then he heads to go sit next to her dad, the king, for safety. So feast number 3 in 2 days begins, and Odysseus decides to face his demons head on. He sends some hot ham over to the bard and is like, bro, can you say more about the Trojan War and specifically about the wooden horse and Odysseus? And the bard is like, sure, bro, no problem, and tells the story. So basically, the Trojan War had been dragging on for 10 years when Odysseus came up with a plan. He had the Greeks pretend to leave, set fire to their own camps, and then sail away, leaving only a giant wooden horse statue on wheels, because it's always polite to leave a gift after you've been trying to murder people. But the gift was a trap, and Odysseus and some soldiers were hiding inside of it. The Trojans were like, should we stab this wooden horse a bunch or maybe just like chuck it over a cliff? But they don't want to offend the gods who might be into horse statues, so they took it into the city, and that night, after everyone had gone to bed, Odysseus and his bros leave the horse and begin to sack the city and murder and enslave everyone. Now, this next part is actually really intense and beautiful, and I talk about it more in depth in my longer recap, so please head over there if you want something a little bit more hearty than just the tea. But anyway, Odysseus is like sobbing and crying because he's, seemingly self-induced a PTSD attack, which could be exposure therapy, but I do not see a licensed therapist leading him through it. And a party is also probably not the best place for exposure, or at least not that kind of exposure. Anyway, this time the king does not help him hide his tears and tells the bard to stop. Then in front of everyone says to Odysseus, my guy, what is actually happening? Why do you keep crying every time the bard sings about the Trojan War? Also, we kind of need your name and / or address to get you home on our magical ships. Oh, by the way, did I mention they sail themselves? Yep, self-driving ships, pretty cool. Oh, also, my dad, the Grand King, says Poseidon does not want us helping strangers or having them in our magical ships, and one day he's going to get real mad when we do it, and he's going to cause a terrible shipwreck and rise a giant mountain from the sea, forever cutting out the island and everyone off from everything and everyone else, which, side note, might explain the rampant xenophobia, maybe. Anyway, he goes on and is like, so what is your deal? Did you lose someone at Troy or something? Like maybe your brother-in-law or your bestie? Tell us, spill that tea, girl. And no lie, that's where the chapter ends, with a lot of exposition, some shoehorned in foreshadowing, and everyone at the party staring at Odysseus, and the king being like, who the heck are you? So tune in next time for Odysseus' answer, and we will see what happens, and also possibly a hot witch coming up. Anyway, I will see you guys next time for more Odyssey recaps.